been some time since you last sat at the table. Let us begin again.
What do you get when you mix equal parts collectible card game, choose your own adventure story, and action RPG? You get Hand of Fate, an interesting concept and title from Defiant Development. You are sitting down to play a mysterious stranger in this unique card game of life and death. The objective? To clear the challenges drawn from the deck to search for and defeat the guardians of each stage. Your deck is built from an equal number of encounter and equipment cards. Encounters are the backbone of the game and determine the challenges and potential dangers you will have to overcome. And the equipment cards you have in your deck represent the items you can find during your adventures. New cards are unlocked and added to your pool as you progress through the game's story mode, defeating bosses and overcoming challenges presented from encounters. A few things impressed me about the cards. Firstly, the sheer number of cards that are unlockable throughout the game. Every card is beautifully illustrated, and they all share the same dark fantasy aesthetic the game is shrouded in. There's a definite Grimm's fairy tales vibe to the illustrations, and it really fits in well with telling the adventurer's story. And don't worry if the thought of browsing through the cards trying to construct a deck doesn't sound as appealing to you as it is to me, because there's an auto-build feature that will select your deck for you before each game. Your opponent explains the rules to you as you play your first few hands, and the difficulty curve is nice and smooth. He also has a few choice comments for you while you are playing.
Really? Is that what you're going to do?
He teases you and condescends you as you play, the way a real opponent would. And the number of phrases he can say is so vast that it takes a while for the same ones to crop up. Once the game begins, encounters from your deck as well as encounters from the dealer are drawn and placed face down to create paths for your token to travel. Moving your token around the board uses up food, a resource which can be bought and found that must be managed effectively. This makes the player consider their exploration, offering a satisfying risk-reward mechanic, as when you run out of food, each move in the game will expend the player's health before an encounter. The encounters themselves are varied and play out like a choose-your-own-adventure book. Text from the card describes the encounter or situation you find yourself in, and you are typically given choices to decide how to overcome the challenge. You may happen across a starving village who demands food from you, or you may spot the glint of a weapon at the bottom of a canyon, or get ambushed by bandits. The optimal resolution for each encounter isn't always obvious, and sometimes leaves you deliberating over what to do when dealing with encounters the first couple of times. Certain elements of encounters are resolved through a game of chance, where you must follow the path of a success card as it gets shuffled face down with other failure cards. There are varying degrees of difficulty for these games of chance, and although it is possible to follow your desired card on occasion, a lot of the time I just found myself making educated guesses. There are also encounters where dumb luck and outside-the-box thinking won't save you from combat. And this is where Hand of Fate really deviates from the norm of card games. Whenever a combat encounter starts, a 3D environment is generated, and using the cards in your hand, you see an adventurer get built from the cards that are played. Your opponent then plays his enemy cards, and they appear on the field. What follows isn't a maths equation of whose cards have better stats, like in most card games, but a more traditional hack-and-slash action RPG experience, where you have to defeat all the enemies in the area to continue playing the game. The combat mechanics have been lifted straight out of the Batman Arkham games, and the more recent Lord of the Rings game, Shadow of Mordor. Attacks are dished out with a single button. You know when to counter with a visual cue, and you'll have to watch out for certain enemies with unblockable attacks. Enemies get progressively difficult, and there are a range of enemy types from bandits and undead to lizard men that spit fire at you. Combat stays challenging in story mode, as the enemies scale as your deck grows, and although the combat is built from simple mechanics, the items you can equip offer a lot of variety on this basic concept. At first, I didn't like how derivative of Shadow of Mordor the combat was, right down to the finishing blow animations in slow motion. But after playing for a while, it was that familiarity among the new concepts for this game that made me feel more comfortable playing a title such as this. However, by emulating such well-established AAA titles, one can't help but compare them, and comparatively, the combat isn't as slick, but it is built on solid foundations. Loading screens as you wait for 3D environments to be generated can feel long, and often take away from the excitement of going into combat. The camera angle in combat isn't adjustable, so you struggle to always keep enemies in view when you get mobbed and need to reposition yourself. There were also 3 separate instances when the game completely crashed, either waiting to go into combat or mid-combat, causing the need for a restart of the game. Although inconvenient, Hand of Fate has a great autosave feature that allows you to continue a game from the move you left the game at, so there was no lost progress. Minor bugs aside, Hand of Fate is a unique experience that teases you with glimpses into a rich fantasy world. The deck building and card mechanics work really well with some interesting concepts like resource management, and it was also apparent after playing for a short while how much effort has gone into the cards and their creation. This is balanced nicely by giving more traditional gamers an outlet of familiarity from which to feel comfortable and explore this new experience by making the combat a 3D hack-and-slash affair. A strong recommend for fans of card games, choose-your-own-adventure books, or those looking to try a bold new concept with good execution from a small developer.